our journey through the Muse studio albums takes us to Drones. Now, first of all, for a band that has some really nice album covers, this is definitely not one of them. I think that album cover could definitely use some work. But Drones is a polarizing album. A lot of people love it. A lot of people don't love it. Some people say it's kind of a return to old Muse. Some people say it's the furthest thing from old Muse. And I think that part of the reason it's so polarizing is because there's really a spectrum of tracks on here, from good to bad. I think some of Muse's absolute best and some of their very worst tracks are on here. And that's why it's an interesting one to talk about. There's so much to talk about with each song. And that's why I was excited to make this video. So let's get started with the first song on the album, Dead Inside. Dead Inside is a really great track. It's very similar structurally to Madness, and then we, of course, had Dig Down following it. Those three songs are kind of similar. However, Dead Inside is definitely the most popular one of those, and for good reason. I actually do like each one of those tracks, but I do feel that Dead Inside is the best of the batch for multiple reasons. First of all, vocal performance is actually one of Matt's best. It's really weird how this late into his career and this late into the band's career, we have a vocal performance this good, but this performance is fantastic. He really utilizes a lot of textures with his voice, a lot of different tones and everything, and it's really refreshing, really unique. Some of those chest notes are insane, and it builds up to that awesome ending. It's very hard for him to sing live, and it's just a very good song. It's structured really well. I love the climax of this song. I think everything about it's good. I think it's really funky. I love the vocal effects on the Dead Inside. I think that everything about this is awesome. I think this is a 9.5 out of 10. A fantastic start to an album. So after Dead Inside, it's followed up with the drill sergeant bit, and that's to build into Psycho. You have a drill sergeant screaming, and then you have someone yelling back, "Aye, sir." It's kind of cringeworthy, but it's kind of awesome at the same time, especially live. And then you go into Psycho. Of course, there's that famous Psycho riff that's been played for years, and they finally turned it into a song, and I think that was a regrettable decision. Yeah, Psycho is the worst song off this album. One of the worst songs Muse has ever made, in my opinion. There's some mixed reviews of this track. It's interesting because when it first came out, a lot of Muse fans were like, "Oh, this is the worst thing ever." However, it became the most popular song off the album commercially, and now I hear it played, the riff at least, played at sporting events. And generally, a lot of Muse fans list it as one of their favorite tracks by Muse, and it's one of the essential Muse songs. And I really don't know why. I think lyrically, it's their worst song, and Muse is a band known to have not the best lyrics. Matt Bellamy's weakest point is known to be his lyrics, and this is on full display here. Now, this is probably lyrically their worst album. Lines such as, "Your ass belongs to me now," "I'll turn you into a super drone," "Love, it will get you nowhere." Like, the whole thing, all the lines are kind of cringeworthy. And the riff, while it's good, it's still simple. And it's kind of goofy how they have an anti-war song that has sexual innuendos in the chorus and a really redneck, generic hard rock riff. I don't really get the message there. It's kind of cluttered. And I'm really surprised this took off with such horrible lyrics, especially in an era where lyrics kind of seem to be more important for people than they really ever have been. So I don't really understand the appeal of this track. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. I don't like Psycho that much. I think it's definitely one of their worst songs. In fact, it might be their very worst song on a studio album, and I'm not even kidding with that. Alright, so next up we have Mercy. And one of the themes of this album is Muse ripping themselves off. They do it a fair bit on this album. And Mercy is a ripoff of Starlight. That nice piano intro and that piano line, very reminiscent to Starlight, extremely actually. And it does kind of just feel like a weaker Starlight. It's not a very popular song, which is weird because it does play at a lot of their live shows, but the fans do not like that. And on this tour, it's kind of weird how they brought out Mercy. But it's an alright song. I think it's actually a pretty good song. I think the chorus is alright. It's nothing special, but it's okay. It's got that music video. By Muse standards, it's not that great, but by song standards, it's alright. It's not one that I'd hit skip on all the time like Psycho. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I think Mercy is not that bad. Next up is what seems to be the consensus best song on the album, and that is Reapers. Reapers is insane. Reapers is fantastic. This is one of their best songs from pretty much every standpoint, and I think objectively it is one of their best songs. Of course, they do kind of have that rip-off Rage Against the Machine riff at the end, but other than that, there's a lot to love here. I think that the intro is awesome. The tapping is crazy good. It's really awesome how they were able to integrate that into a great riff for this song. I think the drumming in here is great. I think the bass line is really underrated here. And then the real star of this is that fantastic guitar solo. It's like a minute long. It's their longest, best, just most awesome guitar solo they've ever done. It kind of combines elements of some of their older, more popular guitar solos, like the Hysteria one, but it's also really fresh and unique, even among other guitar solos by other bands. It definitely stands out as being one of the most memorable and awesome guitar solos of this generation of rock. I'm going to give Reapers a 10. I think Reapers deserves that. All right. Next up, we have Handler. Handler is fantastic. The Handler is just such a good song. This is my favorite song off the album, so spoiler alert, it is a 10. I love everything about this. The riff is so good. It's such a hard rocking riff. It's such a heavy song. Lyrically, it's one of their best songs ever, and I feel it combines elements of Dead Inside, especially going to the climax, but also with Stockholm Syndrome, and most of all, Showbiz. This is definitely a very modern take on Showbiz in terms of structure and in terms of the lyrical content as well. A lot of people think it is a callback to Showbiz, and there's even been evidence in the fact that in a performance of Showbiz, they did have the Handler hands from the Drones tour. This was in 2017 at the Reading Festival. And they also frequently use the isolated system with the drum layers intro into Showbiz or Handler. So they're very similar, and even lyrically with the line, I won't let you control my feelings anymore, which is possibly a callback to Controlling My Feelings for Too Long. Definitely really like that overall, how it does bring back those memories of Showbiz, one of their best songs ever. And in doing so, it became one of the best songs ever. Vocally, it's fantastic. The falsetto is amazing. The chorus is amazing. The song is insane. Great drum performance. This is Dom and Chris's favorite song on the album, and it shows because they love performing this. It's heavy. It's awesome. You feel the emotion. The lyrics are actually really good. Definitely one of their best songs of all time. Again, as I said before, it's a 10 out of 10. Alright, so next you get into one of the most middle-of-the-road songs off the album, and this is The Defector. It first has that little JFK bit, which goes into The Defector. And I find with The Defector, it's got a really good solo, and I do like the Queen-esque vibe that it gives in the chorus. But it's just really good. It's not amazing, it's not great. It's just really good. Good to really good, I guess you'd say. And I think by Muse standards, it just doesn't stand out. It stands out as another good song off of Drones, but not a song that's worth returning to the album for. You return to the album mostly for the last two, Reapers, and of course, The Handler, and also maybe sometimes Dead Inside, or the final track. But we'll talk about that later, or the final main track. But anyways, I do think this is a good song, not a fantastic one. I think that I do like a lot of elements of it. The riff is pretty good. It's just another good rock song by Muse, so it's going to get a 7 out of 10. Nothing too special, but it's very good. Alright, so up next we have Revolt. Revolt is definitely another one of the weakest Muse songs. Probably right there with Psycho. I think those are probably my bottom two studio album songs by Muse, and it's just really cheesy. I've heard the Half Step Down version is better, but the song itself is just really cheesy and kind of goofy, and especially with such dramatic and serious songs like Handler and even Reapers to an extent, it just feels really out of place and just kind of feels like, I don't even know how to explain it. It feels really Resistance-ish, but without all the things that made Resistance good. It feels a lot like another Guiding Light. However, I ended up really liking Guiding Light. While with this song, this is kind of the other version of Guiding Light in which a lot of people criticize. The criticism's definitely warranted. I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 10 as well. Not my favorite at all. Up next is a song I call Unfortunately Forgettable. And the reason that it's unfortunately forgettable is, if you actually listen to it, this is a really good song. This is Aftermath. Aftermath, it's weird because I did a Muse quiz, and you have to name every Muse song, and this was the last studio album song that I named. But when I listen to it, I do realize how beautiful it is. Lyrically, it's some of their best work, especially in an album with such a bad lyrics, and it's just a really, really, really good sounding song. I love the guitar. It sounds very Pink Floyd-esque. It's just a very beautiful track, and especially when you tie it into the whole story of the album, which you don't really feel the story of the album much. It basically tells of a woman named Mary who is taken in by the military, which is led by this dictator, and she is turned into a killer, but then realizes that that's not okay and revolts against the dictator and everything. And Handler's kind of the turning point for that. And this is supposed to be the aftermath. This is supposed to be the end of her story after the revolt. She finally finds someone that she loves, and all that, which I think is great. But overall, it's not the most memorable song, but I still do really like it. And I still think it's really good. So I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. So the main closer of the album is what I believe is The Globalist. And The Globalist is a good song. It's 10 minutes long, and Muse said that it would be basically a new Citizen Erased. And as someone that loves Citizen Erased a lot, it is nowhere near the level of Citizen Erased or the Genesis Symphony. But that being said, I still think it's a great song. I think it's got the multiple sections that are really awesome. You've got some hard rocking sections. You've got some operatic sections. You've got that Western sort of intro. And of course, it ties into the story of the dictator taking over in this universe. Definitely, it goes on for a bit too long. I feel like it is drawn out a fair bit, but I know what they're trying to go for. They're trying to bring back that Citizen Erased sort of style. And I do like that sound a lot. And I do think that they did try mostly successfully, in that it's basically impossible to replicate Citizen Erased or the Exogenesis Symphony, but they brought us something really good, and it's a 10-minute long track, and there's a lot to love there. So I'll give it an 8.5. And of course, it truly ends with drones, which is like a Gregorian chant, weird a cappella song that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm going to give that one a 4. It's definitely one of their worst songs just because it doesn't really count. So I'm not going to give this album overall. I'm going to give this album a 7 out of 10. I think the really good stuff, like Dead Inside, Handler, Reapers, and even The Globalists are just so good that they definitely outweigh stuff like Psycho, Drones, and Revolt. But definitely by my Muse standards, it's one of the weakest albums just because there's so much not good here, but there's also so much great and fantastic that, typical Muse, they have to have something really awesome. And there is a lot of awesome here. So Drones is going to get that rating. Thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts below and stay tuned for the next album review. Bye, everybody.